Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another in Rallyware's ongoing webinar series. Today, we're going to focus on how to stop the revolving door. In other words, what can we do to improve distributor retention, specifically by leveraging digital transformation? And today, I'm excited to have with us Christina Olson and Dan O'Mara. Dan is VP of Sales at Rallyware. He has extensive expertise in providing technology solutions to solve business problems. That experience spans decades, both inside of and outside of direct selling. Christina brings to us a true 360-degree view of the direct selling landscape. Prior to working with Rallyware clients, she has been a field leader and also worked at a corporate direct selling company. So thank you both for being with us today. And before you begin, let me share a few logistics for this afternoon. We will be recording the session, and all of you will receive a link to that recording later this week. After Dan and Christina are done today, we will be addressing any specific questions that you might have. So please, as you think of them as we go along, enter them in the Q&A area of the Zoom screen. So with that, I am very, very happy and excited to welcome Christina and Dan, and take it away.
Excellent. Thank you, Rich, very much for the introduction. And Christina, as always, wonderful to chat with you today. So, yeah. So getting started, one of the things that we're talking about right today is how to stop this revolving door, specifically around using digital transformation to help drive distributor retention. So to understand, let's understand where we're at. And, we're going to be looking at some different areas here. And so the first thing we'll look at is the average team growth of major gig companies is 25%. Here in the direct selling industry, we're looking at 5%. And 2012 to 2020, of course, it's kind of known, we've seen a decline in overall revenue. Maybe not for your specific company, but across the industry as a whole. So we want to try to understand and maybe get some of this, what insights can we see from this? So also, just to kind of add to this a bit more, pre-pandemic research shows that 44% of distributors exit or drop out after 1 year. Meanwhile, 40% of the US workforce involved in gig opportunities is increasing 8% year over year. So what this is really showing us is that there is this gap. And the big question is, why is there a gap, and how can we utilize that information to maybe make that gap smaller? Or better yet, we can go and get some new individuals to our organizations from that. So when we start thinking about digital transformation, we're kind of focusing on what's happening out there in the space. And of course, as we all look, gig opportunities are exploding. And as a result, there's a lot of things that are happening with that impact the direct selling industry as we know it. So one is that it is exploding, infinite choices. But also what we found really interesting is that 67% of gig workers work in multiple gig opportunities. So one, trying to understand how much time are we actually being able to utilize our consultants, distributors for, if all of a sudden now we don't have 100% of that free time or that time they had allotted for working their business. Now we're looking at just a percentage of that because maybe they are working in another gig opportunity. So that's one, understanding the landscape. Number two is the expectations that other gig opportunities have brought is this expectation of a modern digital experience. So where do we stand in regards to that? Talking about very sophisticated technology companies that are driving this. And again, that's focusing tremendously around the data that we can acquire, the data analytics, and really utilizing this, well, pretty much behavior data to help drive the ease of work for gig workers. So that being said, that's where we see maybe that's leading to some of the gaps. And why do we think that's important? Is because of the fact that I think it aligns with why distributors are leaving our organization. So again, infrequent, confusing, or over-optimistic communication. You know, again, with gig opportunities, a lot of times we see, hey, you do this work, you're going to get this type of result. And the work part is easy because it's really pretty much a lot of cases, just do this, 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 and this already laid out for them. So that leaves that second point, which is too much work for too little results. Well, I don't think it's so much the work, or maybe it's the unknown work or the work that people think they're doing that doesn't necessarily lead to results. Also, inadequate training. This is something that we've been seeing and addressing for years now. And then, of course, disenchantment with company promises and products. Also, possibly life challenges or life changes, all that great stuff. So what I'm going to do now is to really draw up what that gap might really look like from a user standpoint. So this slide is crazy. It is really hard to read, and it could be ultimately very confusing. So I'm going to dive into it real quickly here. So across the top, we have learning and development, incentives and recognition, and opportunity management. This is what we feel are the key core functions of our business objectives. And because of this, what we're seeing is this fragmented approach to addressing these core business functions. And, whether it's, something on Facebook and then, hey, I got to go over here and I got to look at this and I got to go over here and I got to look at this. And it's creating what we call leaky pipes or drop-offs between those core business functions, or just drop-off in general because of those comments we see on the bottom: inconsistent communication or information overload, low confidence in product knowledge, loss of motivation, unmet earnings and expectations. So I'm going to stop real quickly and ask Christina to maybe give some examples or speak to this slide a little bit.
Yeah, when you look at this slide, you see the Facebook and you see the surveys and you see the catalog, and it's kind of hard to see that little person in the middle. That person is the person that's supposed to be getting all these materials. It's not just, are you getting them to the correct device? Are you getting them the right way? But are you getting them to the person? And that sad person is really the stylist that we want all of this information to go to. And we want it to go to her in a way that she can take in this information in whatever way speaks to her, whether it's she's waiting for her daughter to drop off or get in the car and she's got a few minutes and she can read something about campaigns, or she can wait at the dance institute and, read the YouTube video while her daughter's taking a dance class. And so all of this information is coming at her really fast and really hard, and it's not coming through training. It's not coming in ways that she understands. It's coming through all of these places that are easy for a person to put things, but they're not easy for somebody to get them. And that's one of the biggest training things that we have, is putting them somewhere that it's easy for someone to get. And that's why you have this low confidence and low product knowledge and loss of unmet earnings and expectations, is that these bits of information are not landing in the stylist's hands. And we can change that. Not only can we change it, but other people can. And getting it like in their hands at the moment that they need it is the most opportune thing that we can do. And we can really control that. We can put training in places that it's easy for the stylist to get to it. We can put it in places that are opportune for the stylist to get it. That's what makes, what we do so easy. And, we really answer these questions that these stylists have.
Thanks, Christina.
Christina, I always joke that we couldn't even keep the programs, incentives, and product lines straight when we worked at corporate, right? And we expect those people out in the field who are giving us a couple hours a week, if we're lucky, to be able to do that. Yeah.
And it's one of the things that we try and do is separate those pieces. So, compliance is totally separate from something else that the stylist needs. And incentives are at the top. And they're really there to show up and give her a reason for being.
Yeah, excellent. You make very valid points here, Christina. And I'm going to jump into one piece here that I think was a very critical piece that you called out on this, is the fact that these arrows, these arrows may just be for display purpose, but actually these arrows are here for a specific reason. And this is that transfer of knowledge. And I think, Christina, you really kind of called that out on that in our practice session of this the other day.
Yeah.
So again, the ability for us we're sending information out to the field, but not very often are we actually getting information back. From the field.
Yeah.
And hopefully by increasing that, we also have the ability to increase our digital experience. So I'm going to move on to this next. And because I think what's important is that we understand this fragmented approach that we have. It can now lead to us understanding why are our distributors as a whole losing interest. Again, when we talked about this earlier, but this lots of work for a little outcome. Well, in this case, it's an exhaustive process. You're just trying to make, trying to make this extra income after hours. But the thought process really here is that, again, what do I do to earn this income, right? I mean, we've been trying to build these duplicatable processes year over year, for a long, long time, but you really can't duplicate. Everything really just has to be common. It has to be, not common, very personalized for the individual so that they stay interested. And so that's the kind of the concept, right, that we're seeing gigs. So, these all-in-one applications are very tempting because it's not as exhausting. It's simpler, and it allows for them to really say, hey, look, I just want to do this. They go, they do it, they're done. So how can we bring that mindset into our industry as well?
Yeah.
So as we can see, go ahead, Christina.
I was just going to say, one thing that we make really common is being able to fit the gig into your phone. And whether you do that with just our application or you go and get an app, either way, you're giving it to them in a way that speaks to them. And that's the thing I think that we do really well, and that a lot of gig companies do really well, is we talk to the stylist.
Yeah, excellent. Very, very good. And to that point, kind of talking here really is this: how do we get there? What are the questions that we need to be asking of our executives and of our vendors as well, of how do we get to this really kind of simpler digital experience, all-in-one application experience? How do we get there? So, some of those things would be, one is ask the question: how do we construct a proper digital experience, or in this case, distributor experience? Which technologies are we going to use, and how are we going to tether them together? So again, we've got a lot of technologies that we have out there, from back offices to prospecting and marketing to learning platforms. How does that even tie into our ERP systems? So again, how do we tie all of these together? And then ultimately, what kind of experience do we want for our distributors, and how do we define that? So do we have a specific goal in mind for our distributors? Does that experience change? Does the overall experience change based on where they are at in their life cycle with us? So again, do we have a very unique experience for each person? How quickly can distributors become product experts? How can they start finding leads? How can they start making sales? Again, in a very simplistic process. And then how do we compete with the draw of major gig opportunities and e-commerce plays? So again, maybe we don't compete on certain things, but maybe we compete on others. And so I think really what we do here is we've got these questions, and these are the questions I think we really truly need to ask of ourselves, our vendors, and our executives or organizations, so that we can see how we can use digital transformation in impacting distributor retention. Now we start getting into the kind of the granulars a little bit, gaining control over our experience as a whole. How do we go about that? All right, so one, fully in your control. We got to keep all that data in one place. There's so much information out there. I mean, if you think about it, some of our organizations have millions of distributors or consultants. And there's a lot of information that's being generated. There's been a lot of information that's already been generated. How can we use that previous information to make our forward information better? How can we make sure that that those activities or the business activities we want people to do are the right ones? So again, to do that, we have to take control of the data. Centralize that user experience, from onboarding, training, whether it's learning and communications, all of it. The most impactful direct selling, digital experience areas in one platform. We need to make sure that we're addressing the relevant distributor pain points, as you can see here. Again, we want to keep people excited, keep them impressed about what kind of technology we're bringing out. And then ultimately, one of the things that Rallyware really believes is the fact that automated tasks and incentives, right when they help the distributor most. Again,
that's one of the things that's really critical to what we do and what others that are in this market do, is drop those tasks in the distributor's hands when they need them. And we do that really well, and other people in this market do this really well. And that's something that we have spent a lot of time learning how to do and asking the users, how do you get that when you need it? And we've learned from that.
So Dan, I've got a question on point 2 there.
Yeah.
We've got that saying one platform. When you just said one platform, or should we say one point of access to clarify that? Because you're pulling information for these individuals from all kinds of places, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Rich. Yeah. You're absolutely right. And that's really, I think, to that point, to be able to have that, you have to have all of the data across your platforms coming back into one specific place. Is that what you were kind of addressing there?
Yeah, so that it wasn't all residing necessarily in one place. It's actually, I only have to go to one place to get whatever information I want, no matter where it's residing at.
Rich, that's, as you and I know, that is a big question for a lot of organizations. And I think that's really kind of called out in the first bullet point, is take control of that data, right? Like, what do you have? Where is it? Can we centralize it? And then once we centralize it, can we use that to provide that, that better digital experience as a whole? So absolutely, Rich. All right. So next point, this is kind of something fun that Rallyware has kind of established. We call it the 5 E's of digital experience for direct selling, specifically around our end-to-end applications. And this is this concept of the 5 E's: enthusiasm, ease, energy, experience, and excellence. So again, enthusiasm. When people join an organization, they're wicked excited. So we want to really take that and drive that. So, nothing is, they get all excited, all of a sudden they come in, they don't know what to do, they lose that enthusiasm. And so what we want to do is, again, keep that enthusiasm riding high by making sure that they're able to complete the right business activities. And number 2 leads right into that with ease. We want those actions to be easy, understandable, and have the ability for them to see, how is this impacting my business? So again, tracking this progress in a very easy to use experience. When we bring that together, we of course drive more energy. People are more excited about going into an application, more excited about doing their work, more excited about learning about what's happening. And then what helps drive that is actually the experience. Very sophisticated experience that is simple to the user. Again, hey, look, I've got 3 things I need to do today. I need to reach out to Rich, I need to call Christina, and I need to take this training for an upcoming product release that's coming. Very, very simple experience, but a complex back end that drives all of that wonderful data and activities together to make sure that we have a beautiful experience. And then finally, excellence. Distributors have the knowledge that they need to grow and are more likely to consume it and use it to sell all the time. So, it's kind of fun when we can bring this all together because we see great results. And Rich, I know that you kind of like to call out this this portion here at the bottom. So if you take a moment, would you kind of just talk through that?
Well, it's just that, all of us want to try to make those distributors as successful as we can, as quickly as we can, right? So fast start, quick start, early success, whatever we might call those things, focusing on the first 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. What happens post 90 or post that time frame where we are focused on as a company? Because every company does it a little differently, but then make that measurement, take that measurement, and how can we drive that behavior after that 30 days or after that 90 days? And here's one that it just commonly we see those first 3 months, right? So that's why we took a look at post 90 days, what is Rallyware affecting in behavior across our customer base? So that's where that last one comes from, right? Instead of just focusing on the beginning, if they hang around, what can we still do to personalize that path to success?
Excellent. Thanks, Rich. So again, Rallyware's 5 E's, we start to see it a bunch. So the next thing we want to kind of talk through is what could an all-in-one digital experience thought process look like? And this happens to be what Rallyware's looks like, but again, what could it look like? So again, in one single experience, opportunity management, learning and development, and incentives and recognition, and be able to provide that single experience where all of that is seen. But really now allowing this to start to work together. So the information inside of learning and development that our field learned, they engaged with, they got something. How do we use that information to drive what opportunities they should engage with next? And then maybe all of that is led by what incentive program are they currently in? So if they're in a certain incentive program, maybe we want to provide an experience that says, hey, learn about these 3 products because these are critical in this incentive program. Oh, and by the way, if they're consumable products, these 5 people over here have ordered them and they're coming up to needing to be reordered real soon. So again, utilizing that single user experience, but utilizing that back-end data from right there. You can see e-commerce and marketing and a CRM. All of it is all tied together and providing a really simple experience for our field that just tells them what they need to do and helps them drive to the things that matter most to them. So I'll open this up to Rich and Christina, if you guys have anything that you want to add to that slide.
Yeah, I would just say that, it's so critical that we've learned and others have learned how to take the data-driven actions and put them in to the system. And, that's really simple. Leveraging the performance history is always a critical thing you want to do, but learning to put it in the system and allow the system to change and grow for the stylist is really what you have going for you. If you can show her what she's earned in a month, if you can show her what she's earned in 6 months, those things go to showing her learning and development. And then you can go to showing her incentives and recognition and what she could be growing if she was delivering the right metrics. And that's where, pushing that data-driven actions in and getting the analytics out really is something that we do well, others do well, but it is something that is really critical.
Excellent. Thank you, Christina. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on. So the next one is, in this particular case, is now breaking these down. All right, so what do those components look like if we're saying, hey, what is learning and development? And again, design and align the right knowledge for the exact right moment so distributors can start selling and shining fast. And it's not just, it's that, but it's also what's important to me. If we've got some organizations that have hundreds of SKUs, well, are we going to teach them about all the SKUs right in the first 5 days? No, let's kind of cultivate their interest by aligning with what interests them about our organization, what interests them about our product lines, and let's take them down a unique path there that allows us to, make sure that they are learning about things that are exciting to them, right? And we want them to be excited about that, and we want to keep them going forward. And a quick example or a quick stat here is continuous learning, all available with a touch of an app is a pleasure for the field to complete, right? So 204% average sales growth in 30 to 90 days post a proper onboarding program. So again, spending time and thinking about the fact that onboarding is unique to individuals, right? It might not be the same for everybody, but if we go about it and we apply the right mindset, we can see a massive increase in sales post that onboarding program in 30 to 90 days. We can see that there. Again, incentives and recognition, another component into what that 3 cycle we showed. So distributors earn rewards, of course, badges and leaderboards, all of that, but also your incentive and recognition programs.
Yeah.
Sorry, Christine, were you saying?
Oh, I was just going to say, like, being able to share with them something that is important is really the heart of what we do and the heart of what makes them excited.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. Yeah. And so again, being able to provide that experience that ties, of course, learning and development, but now incentives and recognition. What incentive programs am I registered in? What incentive programs am I striving for? And then that, of course, will help ensure which learning activities should be presented to me. Again, keeping them excited and motivated throughout that process. All right, and then lastly, opportunity management. Again, easily manage leads, tasks, and activities, make it simpler and fun, be a direct selling entrepreneur. This is what's interesting is that when you take a different look at opportunity management, is that how can we bring opportunity management in line with our normal day-to-day activities of learning and incentives. It's kind of interesting. If you take a look outside of direct selling and take a look at Salesforce bought Slack because Slack is where work was being done, right? And so Salesforce said, hey, we need to get our activities into Slack because nobody really likes to go inside of Salesforce and enter in all the information. And it's really interesting because, it's kind of that same mindset here. Does our field really want to go into a traditional CRM, separate application altogether, and operate their opportunity management? Or do we want to take the education and the data that we have inside of our corporate CRM, inside of our personal CRM, and use that information to send those right activities to help that person? So again, somebody's in the carpool lane, they have 5 minutes to work. What 5 things are going to do? Again, reach out to Rich. Why? Oh, because of this reason. Reach out to Christina because of this reason. Oh, you haven't done either of those 2 things before? Here's a training on how to reach out to them and why it's important to do so. So again, by being able to bring all of that together in a single digital experience is where we at Rallyware feel it's very important to really kind of bring that gap from gig opportunities, kind of merge that gap that we were seeing earlier in the slide. So again, just some information here, but real quickly, any last critical or last thoughts? I'll throw it out to Rich and Christina for any last thoughts on things that we find absolutely important for increasing a digital experience for.
So Dan, I would say, we call out 3 pieces to our puzzle, right? The learning and development, opportunity management, incentives and recognition. Those, don't see them though. I think the Salesforce with Slack example was perfect and spot on, because what we are trying to do is help someone be successful. We are actually creating what I always call a behavioral ecosystem, right? Whether you need a little bit of training and then to incentivize you and then somebody to go after. And so these are all they combine seamlessly together to help me maybe when I'm onboarding or wanting to promote to director or wanting to try to achieve that incentive trip to Cancun. So all 3 pieces should be seen working seamlessly together instead of, that standalone, we're going to train somebody. That standalone, we're going to run an incentives program. That's really, sort of that last thought that I'd like to leave us with before we get to Q&A.
And I'd like to share sort of my feeling as having been someone at this side of the field. And, what this does is so great because it gives me the training, or it gives me the incentives and recognition, or it shows me that I've done something great. But it also lets me figure out which one of those I really care about and sort of put it first. So as I've finished training and I've done a lot more of that, it starts to float a little bit down. And my retention and my data shows up more, and my single platform is there showing me how I'm doing. So as we need to show people things, we're showing them the right things. And that's really what we do so well. And it's what makes this platform work so well. And it makes it work as well as Rallyware. I mean, it works so well as, a lot of the other platforms that are out there.
Excellent. Well, guys, thank you so much for your insights. I'm going to kind of wrap up with this mindset of saying that, you know, gig economy is really kind of shown us and really kind of raised the bar of how digital experience can, you know, kind of help with the life cycle of our consultants, our distributors, to ensure that we can really kind of impact that retention aspect. So again, this is just our take on learning from other areas and how we feel digital experience can impact retention in our field. So for that. So Rich, I'm going to turn it over to you for some questions and answers.
Sounds good. And that was a good wrap up, Dan. Yep. Nobody's going to leave the business if they're being successful, right? If they're selling, if they're bringing people in, that type of thing. So that's the key. How do we make that happen for them? So one of the questions that came up in the chat was about your first couple slides. We put a lot of statistics in there to sort of set the stage, right? And they were asking about those sources. So I will get back to individuals specifically, but I actually looked up in some of the slide notes. So we took statistics from Statista, Forbes, McKinsey, The Ultimate Gig, I have to chuckle on this one, ARP, and then a Service Quest survey also. So that's where some of them went. If you've got specific questions on which ones from where, don't hesitate to circle back with me. So we've only got a couple questions in the Q&A, Christina and Dan, and they really, you could see the companies are thinking about, you know, the challenge of working against those other gigs out there. So one of the questions was, are you seeing from prospects that we are talking to, Dan, or clients that we are working with, Christina, people looking at the compensation structure and first of all saying, let's make this a lot simpler. Let's flatten it, right? Affiliates, referral model, that kind of thing, instead of 3 levels or 7 levels or infinite level. What are we seeing both inside of clients and people we're talking to?
I think we are seeing all sorts of things. You know, it really depends on the structure of the business. And we're seeing everything from, you know, let's take the sales quotient and make it a flat one, make it a big percentage, make it a flat one, and let people sell. And then if they want to build, they're going to get rewarded with that. That's one. You know, there's the option that, you know, is more oriented towards the sales one. It really depends on where we're at, but I'll let you talk about the new people.
Yeah. So, you know, it's really interesting. It's a great question. And to Christina's point, we're seeing it all over the place. One organization, they actually reduced the commission structures and took that and put that into customer acquisition, and then allow their field to be primarily customer management. And so from that standpoint, you know, they use kind of that mindset of just saying, hey, look, you know, the one good thing that really gig has done is to say, hey, look, you know, it really calls out the fact that, hey, you know, an extra $200 a month is important, right? And we can thrive off of that expectation. And one of the things, as they said, is like, look, what do some people feel is the hardest thing about it is customer acquisition. So they said, hey, look, we're going to reduce our commissions and we're going to take that money and we're going to put it all into customer acquisition. And then what's interesting is that they then do a lottery system based on individuals' activities inside of their platforms, whether they're learning, whether their engagement levels of communicating with their team and driving those type of things. And then they do that kind of a lottery system about who gets those leads that the company provides. And that has been, I think, has been awesome to see, and to actually see them really thrive with that, and really kind of turn their field into customer customer management aspect versus a customer acquisition.
That is fascinating. So that's something a little bit unique. It'll be fun to watch them and see how successful they may be using that model. So the only other question, here again, I'll say this is influenced by what's happening in the gig, influenced by maybe some changes in compensation structure. What do you see out there as, I'm going to say, easy come, easy go, right? So if I want to start driving for Uber today, I can start that. And by the end of this month of May, I can quit that. And then I can rent out my lake house for 3 months in the summertime and I can quit that. What are we seeing in the direct selling circles that makes it, okay, not only easy for me to start, but if I don't want to do anything for 4 or 5 months and then raise my hand again and say I want to sell, because in the old days, it was a lot around, if I don't sell $200 over 3 months, I go inactive. If I don't do anything over 6 months, I have to sign up again and pay you more money. Are you seeing changes to that more traditional model, I guess?
That's a good question. I don't know if I am seeing a lot of that, Rich. I mean,
okay.
maybe you are. Maybe you can kind of talk to that a little bit differently. But I don't necessarily. I think one of the things that I am seeing actually slightly is the fact that the definition of engaged maybe is changing. And so one of the things that we were talking earlier about providing unique experiences and asking survey and providing, asking people more about their desires up front, like what are you interested in, and allows us to really kind of segment our field in a much better segmentation based on their survey results and then based on their actual activity as well, and merging that information to be able to segment the field in different ways. And I think that's where we're kind of seeing some activity there is that we're allowing maybe certain segments to have longer grace period because, well, their expectation was not as high as, say, somebody else's. So again, being able to segment that field better allows for us to kind of tailor fit some of those requirements. That's probably what I have seen. And Rich, Christine, I don't know if you have anything to add there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know a number of our customers, right? They create these personas. These are the type of people that may join the business. These are the paths we're going to take them down. And then the beauty of what you have been presenting today is that the data, the machine learning actually then, is that the best path for me or should it switch? That type of thing. So that's the power of the platform too. Christina, any thoughts on those journeys, personas, surveys that Dan was saying?
Really, we are seeing a lot of flexibility, and we're seeing people coming to us saying, hey, we want to do this thing. We want to try this thing. So what we're seeing, because we've got more customers, and each one is filtering out the things that work for them and don't work for them. And they're really leaning on that. And they're really leaning hard into trying new techniques and asking us for new techniques. They're learning new techniques. They're trying different things. And our platform is flexible in that. And so we've learned how to do that for them. And that is one of the things that is the most special about what we're doing now is we're trying new things and allowing users the opportunity to try new things. And they're getting unique results, and they're getting results that are helping them. And sometimes it's, we need 4 different policies at the start versus 3, or we need, 1 policy at the beginning, and then we try something new. So it really depends on the user and depends on the client, but we're seeing that our platform is really good at allowing users to try lots of different things, and we're getting, large volumes of trying different things, and that's really great.
That's a great point, I think, to end with, right? It's sort of that, it's like from a software development standpoint, it's that agile methodology. So we're going to try this. If it works, we'll iterate, we'll keep moving forward. So that's great to see across direct selling companies as they try that, as you can see from some of the statistics that Dan shared with you today, they are finding success out there. So I hope this has helped a little bit. Talking today about how and what those things are that we might be able to have you do out there to really make people think twice before they think about leaving the business. How can we make them as successful as possible so they don't even think about leaving the business? So Dan, thank you so much. Christina, I appreciate you and everything your customer success team does with clients out there. Everybody, thank you for being with us today. As I mentioned, everyone will receive a copy of the recording of this session today. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to circle back with us at Rallyware. We will be more than happy to find out the information if we don't know it. So that's it for our webinar today. And until next month or our next upcoming webinar, we hope you have a very great day and your business thrives out there. So thanks again, everybody. Christina, Dan, have a great day.
Thank you.